Hello! So I've been playing Fallout 4 today, the day of release in the UK, and I figured I'd share my first thoughts. I shouldn't spoil anything which Bethesda themselves didn't reveal before release, and I'm just going to use footage of myself running around the wasteland, so this video itself shouldn't reveal any surprises. This is not a review, strictly speaking, as I obviously haven't played enough to truly judge the game fairly. This is just some first impressions of mine. Just to explain my previous history with the series quickly, my first experience of the Fallout franchise was with Fallout 3, and, along with New Vegas, I have beaten them both twice. I really enjoyed them as games, hence the beating them twice. I haven't played the earlier PC games as of yet, so I wouldn't call myself an expert on the series, but I really enjoyed the previous Bethesda efforts. Due to this, I pre-ordered Fallout 4 with reasonable excitement. However, having now played about 5 hours of Fallout 4, I found my excitement has almost entirely been lost, replaced instead with disappointment. I'll get out the way the most obvious things to complain about, the things which I'm actually not going to personally complain about much. Firstly, the graphics aren't great, there's no escaping that. They should really look better for 2015. They look more like a fan mod of Fallout 3 than a modern game. Now, I would have no issue with these graphics had they been the only negative of the game. After all, Fallout 3 is still as immersive and fun as it was on original release. If anything, grungier graphics add to the overall dirty world the games take place in, so the graphics of Fallout 4 being a little less next-gen is fine with me. Secondly, the game is super buggy. Not Assassin's Creed Unity or Skyrim buggy, but still very much a work in progress. Now, I won't complain about this simply because every game is now designed to be completed via patch. I don't like that fact, but that's how it is for 99% of games. Also, I'm playing a Bethesda game on day of release. I'm just happy it hasn't wiped my saved games yet. None of the bugs stop the game from working, as of yet, and I'm sure they'll mostly be patched out in the next few months. Unfortunately, I now need to move ahead to my more serious complaints with the game. Firstly, the player protagonist being vocal is a huge problem for me. It didn't need to be, as the concept of letting the player character talk and giving them that personality is fine, particularly given the multiple dialogue paths in the game. The issue being that despite being able to completely customise our physical appearance and choice of dialogue, we cannot customise our voice itself. The Saints Row series figured this out in the second game, from then giving you a variety of different personalities delivering the dialogue. If you wanted your huge muscular male character to talk like a female Russian spy, you could. However, with just one actor/actress's portrayal to give soul to your character, you feel like you have just swapped out the face of the same person. The silent protagonist of the previous games lets you immerse yourself in the world, since you can imagine how they would speak and emote in a certain situation. The Fallout games have their root in hardcore science fantasy, and an element of bringing your own imagination to the table did a lot to include the player in the lore. Immersion is the Fallout series' best strength, so to lower the player agency in any way is a poor direction to take the series in. Fallout 4 feels far more mainstream by design than the earlier games. Now believe me, I'm not one of those people who starts complaining once something moves from being a cult property to being liked by a wider audience. For example, I really love the J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot, and I'm happy for it to exist in the same universe as the older franchise pieces. Star Trek is a huge concept which was always a mixture of ideas. You can therefore approach it from these numerous creative perspectives and still tap into a lot of what made the originals great. Some episodes were mostly focused on space battles, for example, so you can make a movie which focuses on space battles exclusively without destroying the brand. Unfortunately, Fallout hasn't really got a mainstream easing in point in the same way. You'll notice how heavily the advertising on Fallout 4 has focused on the power armour and Nuka-Cola, given that robot suits and Coke are easy concepts to sell to a wider audience. The introductory hour of the game features every key element of the series you might expect. You interact with a power armour suit, you get a Nuka-Cola, almost every recognisable element of the lore gets a reference. The main character has also been cryogenically frozen for 200 years, skipping him past the origins of the post-apocalyptic world. This gives the player the chance to have this strange new world explained to him by its occupants. Everything feels simplified. Everything feels like it has been designed for people who know absolutely nothing about the universe in advance. The text-based menus have been replaced by animated friendly buttons, which makes the game feel strangely like Windows 8. The turn-based VATS aiming system has also been changed so that it doesn't pause time anymore. Now, the VATS system has always split the fan community. The people who like the game for its RPG elements generally like the ability to carefully choose their next move, and the people who just want to shoot things themselves found the terrible non-VATS shooting mechanics forced them into using a slow system they hated. Now, Fallout 4 VATS slows down time but doesn't freeze it anymore, which in theory is a compromise for both parties. The issue being that the free, non-VATS shooting is still terrible, so all you've really done is slightly speed up the VATS system for the people who hated using it, while simultaneously making it worse for the people who like the system for what it was. Now, the changing of how VATS works doesn't bother me much, as time still moves slowly enough to let me do my thing. The change does, however, indicate an ever further shift away from the series' tabletop-style RPG roots. with the original VATS system itself already being a conversion of the earlier game's fully turn-based combat system. From what I've played so far, the game also feels far more restrictive, far more directed than it was before. Where previous games would do absolutely nothing to stop you going off to explore, Fallout 4 feels like it is actively directing you towards where it feels you should be moving to next. It reminds me very strongly of the Operation Anchorage DLC for Fallout 3, which found you entering a training simulation for the Brotherhood of Steel. Now this felt very restrictive and based on set pieces because it was a short DLC which was set in a training computer, complete with restrictions. This change in focus towards a more linear path is very damaging to the series, as areas which are non-story essential feel slightly, but noticeably, less well designed / coded. In giving the player near complete freedom in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, everything needed to feel equally polished, since the player may experience the locations in any order. I suspect this new approach is in order to direct the budget towards making the general player's experience more visually and graphically exciting. This approach, however, makes exploration far less exciting, since what you will find off the beaten track is almost certainly less exciting than just staying on the set path. In giving players a remarkably similar experience, you also reduce the Bethesda water cooler-like discussions where people tell each other of their own unique adventures. To summarise my thoughts, Fallout 4 doesn't really feel like Fallout to me at the moment. It feels more like Fallout graphics have been applied to another game as a fan mod. The over-reliance on well-known, popular elements of the lore over new ideas makes Fallout 4 feel unoriginal. When New Vegas took the series in strange new directions, Fallout 4 simply seems to have turned up the saturation in graphics on Fallout 3 and called it a day. With a fully voiced main character, ever-increased set pieces and hand-holding, Fallout 4 feels increasingly like a game and less like an adventure. The problem being that if you were to judge Fallout purely based on its gameplay, it would not score very highly. Fallout 3 is easily the most engaging game I've ever played, and the lore and the world were immersive enough to let me ignore the terrible shooting and enemies ragdolling inside walls. Without the immersion, I might as well just be playing whatever AAA game came out that week. Odds are that pretty much any of them will be more attractive and play better. Obviously, I barely played this game, so I may be talking complete nonsense, and I may find myself sticking an apology annotation on the video once I've played more. Not that I'm trying to avoid negative comments or anything. But yeah, let me know how you're finding Fallout 4. I'm genuinely curious if anyone else feels like I do about the game, and I would certainly appreciate any feedback whether you agree with me or not. Thanks for listening.